Hello and welcome. It is the top of the hour for us. My name is Mati Baez. I am a Student Access and Wellness Counselor in Student Affairs at UAGC. I am delighted to be the host of this session, promoting a culture of care through open educational resources. By joining us today, you acknowledge that this session is being recorded and will be shared with TLC-related materials. Microphones will be muted for this presentation, but we encourage you to post questions and comments in the chat. Also, we have enabled live transcription. If you would like to use it, click the live transcription button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Our presenters have made a few resources available, including a handout, and I'm going to make that available for you in the chat. I'm pleased to introduce to you Instructor Harla Frank and Dr. Kimberly Luke, a mother-daughter duo. Harla joined UAGC as an associate faculty in the Forbes School of Business and Technology in November 2020, and also teaches in the College of Arts and Sciences in the Academic Engagement Center. Before joining UAGC, Harla was the lead faculty for the Bachelor of Science in the Applied Behavioral Analysis program at another institution. Kimberly became a new core faculty member in the Bachelor of Arts in Liberal Arts program at UAGC in February of 2022. However, she served as an associate faculty member at Ashford University, now UAGC, for more than 8 years in the history department. Now, without further ado, I give you Instructor Harla Frank and Dr. Kimberly Luke.
Hello. We are going to go off camera while we present the slides, and then we'll come back for our question section. Thank you so much for joining Harla Frank, aka my mother, and me for a conversation focusing on open educational resources and what OER can offer students, instructors, and UAGC. We have provided you with a handout of open educational resources and open video repositories that we hope you will check out. We have included clickable links, so sit back and enjoy the presentation. From this presentation, you will discover that OER not only saves students money and offers easy access to materials, OER also promotes the culture of care by sending a clear message to students that they belong, they matter, they are cared for, and that the campus is doing everything possible to support their well-being. Fact or fiction? Open simply means free. Fiction. Open means the permission to freely download, edit, and share materials to better serve all students. Jan Hyland noted, the two most important aspects of openness, free availability over the internet and as few restrictions as possible on the use of the resources. There should be no technical barriers, no price barriers, and as few legal permission barriers as possible for the end user. Oops. Aaron McKiernan of Open Funders Research Group stated, access to information is a human right, but it is often treated as a privilege. This has to change, and it will take all of us to make it happen. Today, we will define OER, explain the many benefits of using these open free resources in the classroom, give you an idea of the many resources that are available, and discuss how you can evaluate the quality of these resources. We will also provide examples of how we use OER in the classroom. I'm sorry. United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, defines OER as learning, teaching, and research materials in any format and medium that reside in the public domain or are under copyright that have been released under an open license that permit no-cost access, reuse, repurpose, adaptation, and redistribution by others. Open license refers to a license that respects the intellectual property rights of the copyright owner and provides permissions granting the public the rights to access, reuse, repurpose, adapt, and redistribute educational materials. UNESCO's focus for OER is on universal access to high-quality education, which it believes contributes to peace, sustainable social and economic development, and intercultural dialogue. This focus speaks to the building blocks of inclusion. OER have an important role in helping to provide democratic and equitable access to knowledge, support lifelong and informal learning, and offer diversified sources of knowledge. Later in the presentation, we will share how we apply the 5 R's in our own courses. UNESCO's recommendation on OER describes the need for inclusive OER that caters to the needs of a wide variety of potentially disadvantaged learners, such as those with disability or with limited access to resources. OER offers democratic and equitable access to knowledge, regardless of income level, as long as there are no technology barriers. OER can support lifelong and non-formal learning by being available to people outside of the formal educational system, regardless of age and previous studies. OER can offer more diversified knowledge than traditional textbooks. OER can create more dynamic experiences for learners who can take part in the creation of the educational resources. OER offers the possibility for others to review a work and make corrections or improvements as a means of increasing the quality and relevance of the materials. OER generally allows for reuse, enabling others to adapt good ideas for their own context. OER can be implemented in diverse educational situations, including learning-specific tasks, and consist of asynchronous learning resources. Studies show that 93% of students who use OER do as well or better than those using traditional materials, since they have easy access to the content starting day one of the course. Making free and reduced cost digital course materials available to students on the first day of class has been found to increase the number of A's by 5.5% and A minuses by over 7.5%. The use of OER has significantly reduced the cost of education for many students and has meant that access to quality, affordable education is achievable, particularly for underserved groups. Since 1978, college tuition fees have increased by 1,375%. According to collegeatlas.org, the number 1 reason adults give for not attending college or not considering it is financial. With cost savings in mind, Mo Nyawema found that on average, students save $116.94 per course when OER is adopted in place of traditional textbooks. This is based upon the assumption that most students purchase their textbooks from the campus bookstore. As of late 2018, leveraging OER in courses had reportedly saved students worldwide over $1 billion, according to Spark. The high cost of textbooks has become a financial burden, so much so that studies estimate that 90% of undergraduates do not have a text on the first day of class, and 2/3 of students never end up purchasing required texts due to cost.
I'm sorry, fact or fiction, all OER are digital. This is fiction. OER take many formats, including print, digital, audio, and more. OER include everything from full courses to individual modules, software to support OER use, intellectual property licenses that allow you to apply the 5 R's, syllabi, lesson plans, podcasts, videos, games, PowerPoints, test banks, and much more. Sana, a Vanderbilt University student, explained the value of OER to her. OpenStax has never failed me. I routinely have to refresh on previously learned subjects, and I rely on OpenStax to remember gas laws or kinetic molecular theory. The books are helpful for learning topics from scratch or refreshing on previously learned material. They are especially helpful for studying for standardized tests and self-paced learning outside of the classroom. Chad Flynn, an instructor at British Columbia Institute of Technology, noted, "It's a resource that I can take, customize, and use exactly as I need to. I can take out what I don't want, and I can add in what I do." Representatives of the University of Texas at Arlington believe open education reduces barriers, empowers learners, and connects the academy to the world that it serves. The University of Houston's OER initiatives reduced student costs by over $200,000 for the 2018-2019 academic year, and projected a cost reduction of more than $750,000 for the 2019-2020 year. Representatives of Sacred Heart University applauded OER's ability to increase faculty control over instructional resources and enhance pedagogical practices.
Stumbling block for many faculty members is the fear that OER quality doesn't measure up to traditional publisher standards. Most OER are created by academics and are rigorously peer-reviewed. They are also updated more frequently than resources made available by traditional academic publishers. The British Columbia OER librarians have designed an excellent checklist for faculty to use when assessing the quality of OER. The link for this checklist will be in the chat. Let's look at some examples of using OER in our classrooms. I teach in the liberal arts program and am currently redesigning Lib 102, Human Questions, at UAGC. The liberal arts team had already chosen a great general survey textbook that is used in both Lib 101 and Lib 102. However, there were certain topics that were not covered with the detail needed for a discussion or specific assignment. I used an OER textbook, Christopher Brooks' Western Civilization, A Concise History, that is part of the Open Textbook Library to provide more depth for specific topics. The majority of the textbooks from the Open Textbook Library are peer-reviewed based on the 10 criteria that you can see on the right. Brooks' textbook was reviewed by 6 faculty members from various colleges. You can read the reviews on the website. I use online resources that have been developed for educational purposes. These are 2 examples of such websites. In a discussion about the Enlightenment, I linked to an article from the website on the left about the French Revolution. The Internet History Sourcebooks project provides a collection of public domain and copy-permitted historical texts. This project is an older one that began in 1996, so it takes a little more effort because there are many inactive links. I linked to several sources from the Internet Modern History Sourcebook. One example with the title shown here on the right is a petition by workers in Leeds that was published in newspapers in 1786. The workers were expressing their discontent with the introduction of machines and cloth manufacturing that eliminated many skilled jobs. Fact or fiction? You get what you pay for. Fiction. OER can be produced to the same quality standards as traditional textbooks. Let's take a look.
I use OpenStax textbooks in 2 of my courses at Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design, Sociology and Psychology. I am able to modify the mode of delivery of the information, PowerPoints that I turn into PDFs. I can add information that I feel would benefit my students and individualize the appearance of the reading materials to make them more engaging. Let's take a peek. Bayview Analytics recently published a detailed report on the use of open educational resources in higher education. They found that, depending on the discipline, OpenStax is the 4th or 5th most popular textbook publisher among faculty teaching these courses. Fact or fiction? OER lack ancillaries. Fiction. Open textbooks often come with ancillaries, and when they do not, existing OER can provide additional support. This textbook was published in 2021 and has already been updated. With this text, instructors can get the Canvas course cartridge for incorporating it into their online courses, OER Commons Hub resources, Instructor Getting Started Guide, Diversity and Representation Development Guidelines, 3rd edition Transition Guide, Enhanced Lecture PowerPoint Slides, Test Banks, Instructor Answer Guides for End of Chapter questions, and book customization in docx file format for easy customization. Students have access to Student Getting Started Guide, Reading and Note-Taking Guide, and Student Time Management Guide. In addition, both texts that I use in my courses have been peer-reviewed by over 20 instructors each. This is one example of a page in my Introduction to Sociology course in which I added engaging images. This is an example of added information in my Introduction to Sociology course text. I use the textbook questions and special stories from the text to formulate many of my discussion board questions. I also use the excellent test banks that are provided for weekly quizzes. I typically also embed a quiz practice in Jeopardy style in my PDF textbook. This textbook was published in 2020 and was updated in 2022. It comes with all the resources that the sociology text has, plus an AP supplement, errata release notes, and correlation to APA guidelines. For students, this text offers all that the previous text offered, plus student solution guide for exercises in the text and review questions. This is an image from the PDF I made from PowerPoints that I designed based on the textbook. On the left is the image from my PDF that I use in the classroom for week 1. And on the right is an image from the textbook. The text also includes a young image of John B. Watson of the infamous Little Albert experiment. As you can see, the text provides great images, but I enjoy adding information and images to the reading assignments to try to make them more engaging. I utilize several of the instructor resources offered with my OpenStax textbooks, such as test banks and PowerPoints. Many of the texts include a glossary at the end of each chapter. I make those available to my students in PDF format that they can use as source material for quizzes, discussion boards, and major assignments.
Now let's look at the bigger picture. Beyond textbooks and ancillaries are apps. Perusal was concerned about instructor reports that students weren't completing reading assignments ahead of class. Perusal designed an interactive social media type app that can be added to any classroom. It allows students to engage with each other on the weekly topics and read the assignments in the social media platform on their devices. Instructors can also chime in when there are misunderstandings. They can track students' engagement with the materials through data collection components that are built into the app. The basic version of Perusal is free. Perlego was created by 2 students who were struggling to afford textbook costs. Through a monthly or yearly subscription, students and instructors can gain access to Perlego's library of over 1 million textbooks and academic and nonfiction titles. Do you teach economics? Would your students be interested in the economic backstory of the construction of the Death Star? Apparently, it was plagued by cost overruns and nearly bankrupted the Imperial Reserve Bank. At Econ Stories, you can discover fun and engaging ways to teach economics. Add real-world insights into archaeology with the amazing videos from the Archaeology channel. This site offers many videos on a variety of psychology topics.
Engage your sociology students with videos from the sociological cinema. Teach your students to assess critically sources of information using Gapminder to ferret out fake news. We hope that our presentation has revealed how valuable OER can be to you as instructors and to your students. Let's consider what UAGC can do with OER perhaps in the future. Could we design a system in which students can gain college credit based upon their previous and ongoing use of OER outside the classroom? Could UAG possibly design certificate programs based upon OER? This is just a little food for thought. OER increases access and promotes equity. It allows us to reach more students and provide the tools that will allow them to fulfill their dreams. Giving every student the exact same supports doesn't really help those that don't have a strong foundation to begin with. OER helps us to balance that foundation so that all students can achieve. And Kimberly, you briefly.
Okay, now we would love to take questions or hear how you're using OER in the classroom. If you would like to unmute or just comment in the chat. Thank you, Stephanie. We hope that the resources will be a big help. We wanted to have that available to you so you wouldn't have to take too many notes during the presentation. Have any of you had experience with OER in your classrooms? And that's a good question, Stephanie. She asked, to what degree can we integrate OER resources into course builds? And I'm going to let my mom take this one because she has used it in her classes much more extensively than I have.
At our local college, Rocky Mountain, I have been able to build 2 courses, Introduction to Sociology and Introduction to Psychology. And this particular college is really almost exclusively uses OER resources. And so I was able to be kind of introduced to these OER opportunities through that association. So I will get the textbook that I want from OpenStax, and there are a variety of great open textbooks out there. And I built my courses based on that. I turn the textbook into PowerPoints and then PDF to make a reading hub in my classroom. I can pull from the test banks or the PowerPoints, and even the special stories they have in each chapter to make discussion board questions, and of course to populate my weekly quizzes and things such as that. So, and they also have some really great personal interest stories that make great, announcements to kind of engage the students before the week begins. So that's how I use them. I find the textbook just is filled with so many great topics and questions, and they always have review questions at the end of every chapter.
One thing that you may want to consider, if you're full-time faculty and have admin access, there's also a Commons at the bottom of your Canvas classroom in admin, and it has a great number of OER resources, different modules and lesson plans, and you can run a search and incorporate those into your classrooms as well.
And the little videos in the handout that might be put into the chat, it's really lengthy. And there are just in the video repositories, there are so many fun videos that are correct, as far as theory is concerned, but they are a fun way to kind of engage your students. So they could be really great for like weekly announcements, just to get them started. And of course, perusal. Perusal is so great because you can actually, it has the app to put it right into your online classroom. It works like Facebook, only the topics are each week's reading assignments, and students can get engaged with that and then ask each other any questions they have. The instructor can run in a few times a week and maybe clear up any confusion, and then students are ready to meet with the instructor in their weekly classes. So that seems to have been a big help in increasing student reading of their assignments ahead of the class. So there are just a ton of great things out there. And Kimberly and I doing research on this really opened our eyes to many more resources that we didn't even know about. So it's been a great educational experience for us.
And many of these resources are very engaging visually. I have been looking for additional supplemental materials for my course development. And one of those was the OER project. And it has textbooks basically that are geared more toward high school, but also AP. And it has individual modules that are about 7 pages long, but they are full of images and just very engaging. To often they will put people in first person talking about historical topics. And so this is a great way to get students to really engage with the material and with the time period.
One interesting thing that came up as Kimberly was revising this course that she mentioned earlier, is she made kind of a hook at the beginning of one lesson about what are the names, Kimberly? It escapes me, probably from nervousness. The Wright brothers. And one thing that was so cool was I believe it was Orville Wright wrote to the Smithsonian for information on flight. And you can see his actual letter, which I believe Kimberly put in the classroom to kind of get things going, get conversation going. But I had never seen that before, and I thought it was really cool. So that just an amazing number of things just to engage.
Yes, it was really amazing. It was actually Wilbur Wright, and he was writing to the Smithsonian, and he wanted to let the director know that he was not a crank, that he was really interested in the scientific aspects of flight. And the director wrote him back and said, we actually have a book by one of our members for $1. It was in like 1910 or something. And he actually purchased it for $1. So I thought that was really fun.
And just an aside, everybody, we want to wish Dr. Handy a happy birthday. I believe it was Monday. Dr. Handy, we hope you had a fantastic day. And thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here today.
Wonderful. Hyla and Kimberly, thank you so much for your research, your dedication to this area, and this wonderful presentation. You amazingly highlighted how OER breaks down barriers to access to education and the importance of implementing OER in our classrooms. So for our audience, the handout and the resources that we discussed are available via the Whova app and under these sessions details. So if there aren't any additional questions, I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Hyla, Kimberly, any last thoughts?
Let's see. I was just trying to catch up on the chat. Let me put in my email if you'd like to write and access anything we didn't provide.
And also Ben in textbooks said that they are working on including some OER in some of the pre-development conversations for course development. So that's wonderful.
That is great to hear. Once again, Harlan and Kimberly, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in other presentations during this TLC session.